Trails in the Sky FC, also known as Sora no Kiseki in Japan, or as I like to call it, TITS, is the first of many games in the Trails series, which is part of the Legend of Heroes series, which is part of the Dragon Slayer series. Yeah, there's a lot of these games. Now, this game is a part of a JRPG series, which means that the game is long. Very, very long. And since these games are all split into chapters, I'll just be covering the first game's prologue for now, cause god knows leading that took me long enough as is. Also, I'm going to be playing on Nightmare mode because I hate myself. The game starts off with a little girl waiting for her dad to come back home, but he's a little bit late. He does come back though, and with a gift. The gift being an injured child. They then take him into a bed so he can rest. The boy wakes up and is angry at the man for not just leaving him to die. The girl then does the most reasonable thing one could do, beats the living shit out of him until he stops saying stuff like that. One opening cinematic later, we skip 5 years into the future and the two kids have grown up. They're gonna be the game's two main leads, Estelle Bright, the main protagonist of the Sky arc, best girl and funny out of context screenshot material, as well as Joshua Bright, her adopted brother and best boy. The two are finishing up training in order to become members of the Bracer Guild, which is basically an independent police force separate from the government and spread out across the entire continent of Zemuria, the game specifically taking place in the Kingdom of Liberl. And yes, it's Liberl, not liberal. As the two make their way to the city of Roland, you're free to explore the town and talk to all the NPCs, which you should try to do after every major step in the main story because all the characters have their own little unique stories to tell and add to the world building of the game, which really makes this game good. You'll also get some funny lines as well as some depressing foreshadowing lines. You make it to the guild and meet with Sherazard Harvey, the final evolution of Charmander and Charmeleon, and Senior Bracer. She's the duo's instructor and today is the final test to see if they're worthy of being bracers.
おだまり。毎回教えたことを次々と忘れてくれちゃって。そのザルみたいな脳みそからこぼれ落ちないようにするためよ。よしは知らねえがいじめるよ。
Oh, and did I forget to mention that Estella's best girl? After a brief lesson on the history of the world, they go into the Orbment store to get a tutorial on combat orbments.
オーブメントとはクォーツをセットすることでいろんな効果を発揮する機械のことだ。その定義からすりゃ照明や飛行船のエンジンなんかもみんなオーブメントなわけだが、具体的には属性限定のスロットやスロットをするようにする戦術中央の左右した最初から難しい話が残りは最初に開封してもらう必要に調理分けた方々で開封してもらうスロットを開封しなきゃ開封には中央の
You know what? Fuck this. You have these orbs, right? There are 7 elemental types of orbs and when equipped, they each have a stat buff and effect they give to you. They also have differing SEPIF values and when combined with other orbments on the same line, the SEPIF values add up and getting certain SEPIF values allows you to cast spells called arts. There you go, and that didn't take me 50 fucking years to explain. You then get taken to the fanciest training grounds, the sewers. There you're tasked with retrieving an item from a chest. Our Estella's overjoyed at this fact. And so her and Joshua head in. There you fight through a series of battles, get acquainted with the combat system which consists of the aforementioned arts, crafts which consume CP, a meter which gets filled up by attacking or being attacked by an enemy, and S-crafts, really powerful moves which cost at least 100 CP to perform, and 200 CP for a stronger version. The benefit of these moves is that you can interrupt turn order with them, giving you the ability to perform them whenever. Another thing you'll get acquainted with is the funny chest quotes. When localizing the game, XC decided to have a little fun and for every chest you open, if you check it again, you'll find a little joke or pun made by the localizers. It's a really nice touch and it's really charming. Hell, there's even an achievement for reading all of them. After the tutorial fights, you reach the first real fight of the game, where I fail miserably and die. You know, I'm slowly starting to regret my decisions. When you manage to win, you leave the sewers and report the quest results to the guild and get your junior bracer badges. Now you're set on the path of being bracers. As you go back home though, Aina gives you an urgent request. The two kids from the town decided to head to Asmela's Tower, a place full of monsters, and you decide to quickly go there in hopes of catching up to them. You do manage to help them out of a monster attack, but as Estelle is punishing Luke, she's almost ambushed by a monster, only being saved by her father, Cassius Bright. As he takes most of the glory, you report back to the guild and get a letter you have to deliver to your father. A really nice scene with Estelle and Joshua later, you make it back home and give Cassius the letter.
うん 帝国方面からの連絡か。なんだと?
Yeah, Dad's leaving for Erebonia to buy milk and cigarettes. Also, you gotta do all the jobs he left behind. Have fun. In the meantime though, you can do some other jobs listed on the bulletin board to get some extra VP, which you should definitely do because you get a bunch of neat rewards for getting higher ranks. The missions can vary from just killing random monsters in the middle of roads, getting certain monster drops for NPCs, or just doing random tasks like fixing a street light. Finding a rock, or finding cats. The first real request you gotta do is help defeat the monsters that destroy crops on Purzel Farm. There lives Tio, a friend of the Brights from Sunday school. They stay overnight to wait for the monsters, and Tio and Estelle have a chat about Joshua, and you get to see some signs of Estelle's unsurprising and obvious crush. After the conversation, you go out and kick the monsters' asses, and are left to decide what to do with them. Estelle wants to let them go, thinking that they've learned their lesson, while Joshua wants to just straight up kill them. Upon the Purzel's request, they let them go. Joshua feels bad for what he suggested, thinking of himself as an uncompassionate person whose heart is broken. Estelle gets upset at him for saying this.
よしあのバカ！勝手に自分のこと決めつけるんじゃないわよ。
エステル？
この5年間、私はヨシアのことをずっと見てきた。いいところ、悪いところは誰よりも知っている自信がある。多分、ヨシア本人よりもね。その私を差し置いて、ふざけたことを言わせないからね。壊れてるだなんて、絶対に言わせないんだから。
ごめん。バカなことを言った。
わかればよし。でも、ちょっと嬉しかったな。ヨシアってさ、いつも一人で溜め込むじゃない？苦しい時も、悩んでいる時も、平気そうな顔をしながら、一人で解決しようとするのよね。それって、やっぱり家族としては寂しいよ。
エステル、僕は。
でも今日は、自分をさらけ出して、弱い部分を見せてくれたじゃない？少しは、私のことを頼りにしてくれたんでしょ？だから、ちょっと嬉しいんだ。
Best girl. The next morning, they head back to town and hear about their second request. They head to the mayor's office and he tells them about a septium crystal they need to get from Malga Mine. There, you get the crystal, but monsters suddenly appear and start attacking the miners. You fight them and die a bunch until you win, make it out of the mine, and give the crystal to the mayor, who has a guest over. Her name is Josette, and she's a student at the Janus Royal Academy, who's researching the cultural assets of the kingdom's regents. She's also very intrigued by the crystal the Bracer duo brought, meant to be a birthday present for the queen. I'm sure she's fine. Such a nice girl would never do anything bad. After finishing that quest up, you get ready to do the final request, which involves meeting up with the reporters from Liberal News and acting as an escort. Two reporters are Niall Burns, a scruffy guy who seems harsh but really cares about others and is very dedicated at his job, and Dorothy Hayat, a photographer for Liberal News and Grandmaster of Ouroboros. Yeah, just kidding, she's fucking dumb. She takes pretty pictures though. They ask you to take them to the top of the Asmelas Tower so they can take pictures from the top. As you make your way up the tower and die to the fucking eels, you finally reach the top. There you find another person. He's called Professor Alba, a very nice and friendly man who somehow made it all the way up the tower in one piece by just running away from the monsters. I mean, the success rate of escaping battle is 100%. He's an archaeologist who's researching the 4 towers spread out across the Liberal region in hopes of finding out something about the Oriole, the Septarian and gift from the goddess, which was lost after the great collapse of the ancient Zemurian civilization 1200 years prior. Wow, that's interesting, but I sure don't care. I want a simper pretty anime boy. And he's not feeling well, fuck. Well, I guess I'll talk about the recent Sky Bandit incidents in Bros, learn about Estelle's mom dying in a war 10 years ago, and talk to Dorothy about how hot Joshua is. Very interesting stuff. After all that, you finally return back to town and report the final request. And with that, you're finally done with all the requests your dad left, and can take a breather. Well, never mind. Turns out the mayor's house was robbed and the septium crystal was stolen. So you gotta perform an on-scene investigation, which leads you to the conclusion that only Gisette could have done the crime. But that's impossible. You mean to tell me that her being nice was just an act? You really think she would do that? Just go to the mayor's house and tell lies? Apparently she left town, but didn't go to the landing port. We do, however, find out that she might be at Mistwald, so we head there and find her, along with some of her goons. They're having a very productive conversation in which they talk shit about Estelle and nothing else. So, as you might imagine, Estelle's a tiny bit pissed off. After letting them talk a bit more shit, you finally confront them to kick their asses and lose. But then win on your second try and get the crystal back. While interrogating Gisette, however, Shara gets a little bit too into it and manages to escape on an airship. With nothing else left to do, we head to the guild and report what happened and get a recommendation from the Roland branch of the guild. Basically, if you want to get promoted to a senior bracer, you have to get a recommendation from every guild branch in the kingdom. Before we have any real time to celebrate though, we're informed that an airliner has suddenly disappeared. And what's worse, that airliner was the one that Cassius was on. It only gets better from here, so I'll see you next time with Chapter 1. If there is a next time. So yeah, I'm not really good at ending things off well, so fuck it, have spinning Estelle for like 30 seconds. See ya.